There is a protection that cannot be seen with the natural eye. It is not held by walls nor guarded by armies. It is divine, supernatural, and appointed by heaven itself. And when a woman walks under the covering of God, the forces of darkness cannot touch her without His permission. The world may see her as ordinary, but in the Spirit she is surrounded, guarded, watched over. She is not alone, not vulnerable, not at the mercy of the schemes of wicked people, because the hand of the Almighty has marked her life. And when God places His mark on someone, hell takes notice and backs away. There are moments in life when things seem to fall apart, when relationships end without explanation, and opportunities slip through our fingers. It's easy to interpret these experiences as rejection, abandonment, or failure. But for a woman walking with God, these moments often hold a deeper meaning. What appears to be a setback in the natural is frequently a setup for divine protection. When heaven covers someone, that covering may not be loud, dramatic, or obvious. It can come in the form of a closed door, a sudden disconnection, or even the feeling of being held back from a certain path. And yet it is in those moments that God is working most powerfully behind the scenes. The protection of God isn't always something you can point to with the eye. It's something that must be discerned by the Spirit. A woman under divine protection may not even realize how many battles have been fought on her behalf, how many traps were dismantled before she stepped into them, or how many arrows were deflected before they reached her heart. She moves forward, unaware that invisible hands are clearing the path, rerouting danger, and ensuring that what was meant to destroy her cannot even touch her. This kind of protection doesn't always look like victory. Sometimes it looks like delay. Sometimes it feels like loneliness. But in the delay, she's being hidden from premature exposure. In the loneliness, she's being kept from counterfeit companionship. When people walk away unexpectedly, it's not always because of their betrayal. It might be because God removed them before their true intentions could cause harm. When an opportunity is denied, it could be because He sees what she cannot. He sees the trap behind the title, the weight behind the blessing, the cost behind the applause. And so in the quiet places where it seems like nothing is happening, everything is actually being rearranged. The woman protected by God learns to trust that silence does not mean absence, and waiting does not mean punishment. She begins to realize that her tears were not wasted. They were watering the soil of a harvest she couldn't yet see. Every unanswered question becomes an answered prayer in disguise. Every painful goodbye becomes a redirection towards something sacred. When a woman is protected by heaven, the evidence won't always be visible to others. People may not understand why she doesn't fight for every opportunity, why she lets certain people walk away, or why she stands still when the world says to run. But she knows that her covering is not made by man. It is spiritual, holy, unshakable. And even when she walks through fire, it will not consume her, because the one who walks with her is stronger than the flame. When a woman walks in the presence of God, she becomes marked, set apart in the spiritual realm. That mark doesn't always make her life easy, but it makes her untouchable to those who seek to destroy her. Evil may try to get close. People with wrong motives may smile to her face. Plots may be formed in secret. Words may be spoken behind her back. But when God has placed His hand on a life, the plans of the wicked cannot succeed. They may start, but they cannot finish. They may form, but they cannot prosper, because something greater than human effort or manipulation stands in their way. There's a divine resistance that rises up without needing to be seen. It comes in the form of exposure, where hidden motives suddenly come to light. It shows up in disruptions, where connections fall apart before they can entangle. And it manifests in confusion for those who seek to bring harm, because every time they try to act, something unexplainable blocks their steps. It's not coincidence. It's spiritual protection. The woman who walks with God often doesn't need to fight the way others do. She doesn't have to shout, argue, or defend herself at every turn. She simply stands firm, and in that stillness, something powerful is at work. The battle is being fought for her, not by her. Evil people may grow frustrated because they cannot figure out why their influence doesn't take hold, why their manipulation falls flat, or why their schemes seem to hit an invisible wall. What they don't understand is that she is not standing alone. There is a covering over her life that cannot be penetrated by malice. Even when it looks like the enemy is winning, when the lies spread, when betrayal seems to gain ground, truth always finds its way to the surface. In time, what was spoken in darkness is brought into light. And the woman protected by God doesn't need to chase down justice, because justice is chasing her. It may not come in the way or timing she expects, but it will come. The same God who sees in secret moves in perfect time. There is a holy reversal that takes place when evil targets a child of light. What was meant for harm is turned for good. What was sent to break her becomes the very thing that elevates her. The attack becomes her testimony. The rejection becomes her redirection. And the wound becomes her wisdom. The protected woman may not be spared from every hardship, but she is secured within every battle. The war may rage, but she will stand. The fire may burn, but she will not be consumed. And the enemy may try again and again, but he will never prevail, because she is not unguarded. She is surrounded by something greater than any force of darkness can comprehend. When a woman is under divine protection, she is given more than just safety. She is given discernment, not the kind that comes from education or experience, but a deeper inner knowing that cannot be explained by logic. It is a sense, a spiritual alertness that allows her to see beyond the surface. While others are charmed by appearances, she perceives motives. While others are deceived by flattery, she feels discomfort around false intentions. This is not paranoia. It is spiritual sensitivity gifted for her protection. She may not always have the words to explain why she avoids certain people or chooses not to trust too quickly, but something in her spirit stirs when she's around danger, even when it's masked in politeness or cloaked in opportunity. That stirring is a signal. It's heaven whispering, "Be careful, step back, stay awake." And over time, as she begins to trust that voice more, she finds herself walking away from things that would have harmed her, distancing herself from people who carried poison in their presence. There are times when she can feel the shift in a room. A smile may remain on someone's face, but the energy changes, and she knows. She senses betrayal before it happens. She feels dishonor before it's spoken. She detects envy even when it's dressed in praise. This kind of discernment doesn't make her judgmental. It makes her wise. It allows her to navigate relationships without constantly being wounded or caught off guard. While others may fall repeatedly into traps of emotional manipulation or toxic friendships, she steps around them with a quiet awareness. This discernment doesn't always come easy. Sometimes she has to learn through experience, trusting the wrong people, ignoring her inner warning signs, and suffering the consequences. But each time, she becomes more refined. Her discernment sharpens. She learns to pause, to listen to the unease, to respect the silence in her spirit that says, something is off here. And in doing so, she creates space around her, space where only truth can breathe and darkness cannot settle. She becomes highly selective with who she lets into her inner circle, not because she's guarded in fear, but because she knows her peace is sacred. She understands that not every smile is sincere, not every friend is safe, and not every opportunity is from above. She does not need confirmation from others when her spirit speaks. She's not afraid to walk alone if it means walking with clarity. And in the unseen realm, this discernment becomes one of her greatest defenses. It saves her time, heartbreak, and spiritual damage. She becomes a woman who sees not just what is, but what lies beneath. And by walking in this wisdom, she stays steps ahead of the schemes meant to derail her. Her path remains clear, not because it's easy, but because her steps are lit by something greater than sight. Sometimes protection doesn't come with flashing lights or loud warnings. It comes quietly through separation. A woman who is under divine protection will often find herself being pulled away from certain people, environments, or situations that once felt familiar or even necessary. At first, it can be confusing. She may question why people have walked out of her life without closure, or why the circle she once had has grown smaller. She may wonder why she suddenly feels distant from individuals she once trusted. But over time, she realizes these moments of isolation were never random. They were strategic. They were the result of a greater plan working behind the scenes to preserve her purpose. There are relationships that feel good but are not good. There are connections that are convenient but dangerous. And there are people who, though they speak kindly, carry hidden motives that can corrupt a soul slowly. When a woman is set apart for a greater calling, she cannot remain entangled with every influence. So the divine hand begins to separate, not to punish her, but to preserve her. What looks like loneliness is actually preparation. What feels like abandonment is really protection. And what she thought was rejection was, in truth, redirection. It takes time for her to understand that not everyone who leaves her life is a loss. Sometimes their departure is a blessing she didn't ask for, but desperately needed, because some people were only meant to walk with her for a season, not a lifetime. They carried attitudes, behaviors, or spirits that could not travel with her into her next level. And if she had stayed tied to them, they would have delayed or even destroyed the growth that was waiting for her. Separation Separation isn't always physical either. Sometimes it's emotional or spiritual. There's a shift that happens. Conversations feel different. Interests no longer align, and something just doesn't connect anymore. That is often the signal that growth is happening, and with growth comes the shedding of old attachments. A woman protected by divine wisdom begins to embrace this process. She learns that it's okay to love people from a distance, to bless them without holding on to them, and to let go without guilt. And in those seasons of solitude, something powerful happens. Her vision clears, her strength builds, her relationship with her Creator deepens. She begins to hear the still, small voice that was being drowned out by noise. And she realizes that what she once feared, being alone, was the very space where she found herself again. What seemed like subtraction was actually addition in disguise. She lost people but gained peace. She walked alone but found direction. She released the familiar and discovered freedom. And in all of it, she was being protected, not just from others, but from the lesser version of herself that would have remained had she never been separated. The silence was not empty. It was sacred. It was in that silence that she was made whole. The conclusion of this speech affirms a powerful truth. When a woman is protected by divine hands, nothing formed against her can truly succeed. Her journey may not always be easy, and the signs of protection may not always be clear in the moment, but with time they become undeniable. She may be separated, misunderstood, or even isolated, yet all of it is working for her good. The wrong people will fall away, the hidden threats will be exposed, and her spirit will remain guarded not by chance, but by purpose. Her strength is not in how loudly she fights, but in how deeply she trusts the one who fights for her. In every silent redirection, in every inner warning, and in every unexpected ending, there is a holy shield being raised around her. She does not need to fear who comes or who goes, because those meant to harm her cannot reach her, and those meant to walk with her will be divinely aligned. Her life is not unguarded. It is watched over, guided, and protected from realms seen and unseen.